Welcome to part 12 of the Moto Fugazi build. In this video, we're actually going to build a Honda CX500 bobber from the frame out. And as you can see here, the frame's back from the painter, and boy does it look good. So I'm going to start by reassembling the triple tree. The triple tree in these bikes uses a loose bearing system, so I'm repacking the bearings with new grease and reassembling the triple tree as seen here. So the plan here is to loosely assemble the triple tree so that I can reinstall the fork and the frame all in one go. The top and bottom parts of the tree are independent of each other, so what I do here is just loosely tighten this bolt so I can align them with the forks once they're installed. I would imagine there are probably other methods of installing a fork and front wheel to a frame, but unfortunately I'm working alone today, so my method was to reinstall the bike stand and slowly work the frame down onto the forks. This was a bit of a balancing act, but I did manage to do it safely for the most part. And as you might be wondering, you might notice that I didn't paint the stand because I plan on removing it once the bike's assembled and just have the kickstand by itself. The reinstallation of the BBCR Engineering bracket actually went pretty smooth. I used Windex to provide a little lubricant to not scratch the new frame paint, but it went on straight and bolted up pretty easily. Took a little force there, but nothing too difficult about reinstalling it. The rear swing arm also came back from BBCR Engineering unpainted, so I went ahead and have that painted as well to match the frame. Reinstallation was basically the same as it was in the test fitting, so that went smoothly as well. So pretty happy about that. I gotta say, installation of this entire bobber kit is pretty straightforward. The parts fit real tight and snug, which is actually very comforting. And it should take maybe 20-30 minutes in total to get it all installed properly. And next big step is reinstalling the motor. So one thing I'm doing here is reinstalling the coolant tank. It's basically impossible to get in once the motor's installed. Reinstalling the motor requires a little bit of finesse. The first pass I tried to install the top bolts and then swing the motor back into the rear frame. That doesn't work like you think it will. So what you have to do is, I ended up actually supporting the motor from the front by a strap. I then used a jack to help pivot the motor back to the rear frame mounts, and then work my way to the front and attach the front bracket to the top of the frame. Everything's looking pretty good at this point, but unfortunately when I reinstalled the rear swing arm, I forgot to install the drive shaft. So here I am taking the swing arm back apart to then install the drive shaft so that I can get the rear wheel mounted. One small note here that the drive shaft has that small locking bolt that locks the drive shaft to the back of the engine. So make sure you remove and reinstall that bolt before putting the boot back on, otherwise you're going to have a bad time. Alright, now reinstalling the rear wheel is basically the same as you would with a factory bike configuration. So what I did was I reinstalled the diff on the right side and then lined up the 3 diff bolts to the end of the swing arm, wheeled it in, and then pushed the axle through the brake side into the diff and then bolted it all down. There's really no difference here between installing it on a regular bike, other than there's a lot less bike in the way. I also went ahead and picked up a Clubman bar for the new setup, and here I am test fitting the Clubman bars with the new seat just to see what the seating position is going to be like. I actually ended up changing this a little bit later on, but just to give you an idea of the seating position, it actually feels very comfortable, much like a sport bike. I went ahead and picked up a new exhaust for the bike, and the one I'm going with is the Mac 2-to-1 exhaust. So let's take a look at it. Hardware. 2-to-1 goes to a single horn. This basically looks like a completely hollow muffler. I've seen a couple reviews that said that this is probably the worst part about the exhaust. So I may upgrade this. But the rest of the pipes I definitely need. So let's see what we got here. Alright, there's our pipes. Cool. And warranty. And then there's a sticker way down there. There it is. Okay, so let's put this thing on. The Mac 2-into-1 kit is basically 2 parts with a muffler. The right side has the Y pipe, the center pipe, and 1 exhaust downpipe. And you fit the left downpipe into the Y pipe, as you can see here. Now, what I'm noticing here right away is how close these pipes are to the engine. In fact, what I'm looking at here is that the pipes are actually banging against the motor, and I'm having trouble making any sort of sense out of aligning these pipes without having them touch either the oil filter housing or the clutch lever. So, fitment's not great. In fact, I'd give it maybe a C- in terms of what I've seen aftermarket exhausts do. First thing is up here where the exhaust mates with the head, it almost looks like it's crooked, and I can't seem to make it any straighter, so I don't know if it's just poor craftsmanship or it's actually not aligned right. I guess I'll find out when I start the engine and there's a leak there. The other thing is, if you come on down here, is right there. The pipe is actually touching the oil filter housing. I've messed with this for about an hour now, and I can't seem to get it to not touch that exhaust or that oil filter housing without the exhaust being not tight all the way. So moving underneath to the other side here, straighter fit up here, but as you come down, really tight against the clutch lever. So I'm not sure if actually, now that I look at it, it is touching the engine right there. So again, you know, I'm not real happy with the quality of the work of this exhaust. I'm gonna try to make it work, but you know, not real happy with the way that it's built. Finally, and this was gonna be in the next video session, was to mount my battery box here. and figuring out the measurements and where the exhaust would sit, it seemed to me that this box would fit right here. The idea here is that this box replaces the H box in the stock exhaust right here in this area. So you put your battery in here and your electronics in here, and you got them all hidden away real nice. The problem is, if you can see here, bangs into the exhaust. So, and the thing is, probably, if I look at the box here, the exhaust is coming in right about there. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to modify this box because I'm stuck with this exhaust for the time being. So, in the next video, I'm going to see what I can do about modifying this box, which is aluminum, and making it work and begin getting the electronics packed in there in this tight little space. So hopefully this modification doesn't cost me the space that I need, but I'm a little disappointed this isn't working out quite like I had planned. The alternative would have been to buy a totally custom exhaust. There's a few guys out there that make them, including the shop that made my suspension, which is BBCR Engineering. But at the time, I just didn't want to invest that kind of money. Although I'm learning now that maybe I went a little cheap on this Mac exhaust, and I'm going to end up buying twice. So I'm going to end up running with this Mac exhaust for now, and if it works out, great. If not, I'm going to definitely consider another option, possibly for another episode. So stay tuned, but so far, pretty happy with how things have turned out. It's going to look great with that tank on there. We're going to do some work on the wiring, get all that figured out. So that's the next couple videos, I think, and do some problem solving with this box. So, going to be interesting. So catch you soon, and thanks for watching.